Hey everybody, Rosemutter here. Welcome to part 3 of my Chaos Child playthrough. So we are just barreling right into the story. I really appreciate that about this. It's, the game is assuming that we have played the first game and they're like, all right, we're not going to fuss around too much. Boom, 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 murder, murder, murder. And of course, as Takaru predicted, the murder happened on the day coinciding with the third murder from the New Gen Madness case 6 years ago. This one happening at a love hotel with a man tied up with wire and having a bed spinning around until his head gets sawed off, essentially. And we're in a situation with a young girl in the room as well. Don't know anything about her. And that same knocking sound, the knocking sound that the two previous victims heard. So obviously, twice is a coincidence. 3 times, that's a pattern. So it's not only Takaru who believes so. There is a radio host, her name is Kei-san, who also has made that connection about the murders, which means I'm sure like everybody is going to be reporting on it and just waiting anxiously for the next murder to happen. I believe October 10th is when they said the next one was going to happen. So, yeah, let's go ahead and continue with the story. I'm certainly intrigued by it. It's really got me curious to see what's going to happen next. So without further ado, let's get back into the story. All right, let's see this. The 3 suspicious deaths in Shibuya this month line up with the dates of the New Generation Madness. A 4th death is predicted to occur on October 10th. New Generation Madness, holy shit. First, seriously, thread archived. Oh yeah, hell yes, it's happening. GIF. I've mentioned it before, but man, they really nail the, I feel like a lot of times when games try and do internet speak, it comes off really lame and it doesn't seem authentic, but these games really do a good job. Like, I could definitely, this looks like an actual, like a chat. Like, this is what people would actually write. All right, Kei-san is so smart. Oh man, I'm getting goosebumps. Wow, it was real. How did no one notice? Festival time, no time to eat. Let the carnival of miracles begin. New gen, new gen. If this is true, isn't that scary as shit? I want to know more about the 3rd death. Was it as nasty as audio bleed? Kei-san, you're so smart. Let's get married. Whose eyes are those eyes? I get so excited listening to Shibuya News. I fapped her voice 3 times, could do it twice more. Oh boy, I had the same feeling. I think this means another earthquake is coming. I want to see the Esper 6 years ago in front of the station. I was in college then. Now I'm unemployed and stay home all day. Fun's about to start again, huh? Shibuya's doomed. I'm Kei-san's dad. This means they'll cancel the Restoration Festival. You guys make me sick. People are dead. What the fuck are you so happy about? I call BS. I thought Kei-san was smarter than this. I'm disappointed. It's been 6 years and it's time to drag this out again. October 1st, 2015, Thursday. The same time. Shibuya Police Station.
いい加減答えてくれないかな。名前と住所は？学生さん？それとも働いているのかな？あの柿田っていう男の人と何回もあのホテル行ってるよね。
Many times.
どういう知り合い？付き合ってたの？もし喋るのが嫌ならうなずくとか手を振るとか何でもいいからさ。ね？どうなの？
The officer sank back into her chair in resignation. Shinjo could sympathize.
なるほどな。
He'd just come to check on her a moment ago, but they'd probably been doing this since yesterday. Locked in an interrogation room, cut off from the outside world, and questioned by multiple officers, most people would lose their cool. They'd start to wonder what effects their words were having, to focus on every movement of the officer who was taking down notes. Even if it wasn't hot in the room, they'd start to sweat. But this girl didn't respond at all. It probably wasn't because she was used to it. If she'd ever been interrogated before, the fingerprints they'd taken would have told them who she was.
新庄さん。
ん？
やはり連れて行った方が。
To a mental hospital, you mean? It made sense. The natural assumption was that the shock of the incident had incapacitated her. Shinjo nodded, as if considering it.
捜索願いは
This was the second day since the incident. If she lived in a normal family environment, someone should have submitted a missing persons report by now.
洗いました。ですが当たりません。
Shinjo watched the girl as he listened to her talk, but the girl didn't move a muscle.
家庭のことを言外に含ませても動きなしか。
The normal ways weren't going to work then. She'd been sent to the hospital by dawn at this rate.
ご苦労さん。こっちで留置しておくからもういいよ。
The other officer couldn't hide her happiness as she left the room. Shinjo sat down in the chair she'd been sitting in and took a good look at the girl from the front. She was ignoring him and still looking down at the desk. She didn't even seem to notice or care that the person in front of her had changed. Shinjo remembered his conversation with Momose. After he'd hung up, she'd call back in precisely 3 minutes, just like she'd promised. And then she said, "My kid has a message for you."
それだけですか？どういう意味です？
いいからそう聞いてごらんなさい。それで今の新庄ちゃんのような反応をしたり、変わらず黙ったままだったりしたら、残念だけど、非感知しか取る手段はないそうよ。もし別の反応をしたら、もう一度連絡をちょうだい。
Okay, so this is the girl Momose was talking about? She said like her kid or the kid that was working with her? The message didn't make much sense, but he didn't see any other way.
一つ聞きたいことがあるんだ。
There was no response, of course. He continued, uncertain if she was even hearing him.
君は持っているものに気づかれなかったのか、元から持っていないのか、どっちだ？
Her eyes moved. Instead of looking down at the desk, she was looking at Shinjo. Shinjo was surprised but did his best to hide it.
どうなんだ？
The girl stared at him as if trying to figure him out. And then a moment later,
誰なんですかあなたは。
her words were quiet but sharp. It was the same tone of voice that Shinjo used when he was interrogating a suspect.
ここの刑事だ。君、名前は？
She seemed to be thinking about something as she stared at him. Her mannerisms were just like his own, again. It was the same way a detective faced a criminal, trying to gain every scrap of information from what he could see. And then she slowly opened her mouth. So I'm guessing she probably worked with Momose, and then she was in that hotel room for some reason, maybe knowing that this guy was going to be the next victim. I don't know.
有村ひなえ。碧峰学園の学生です。
What a shocker. She goes to the same school as everybody else. And yet no one seems to have noticed that she's gone. I left the RV where I lived alone, and only then did I realize it was evening. The sunlight must have been pouring into my room, but I hadn't noticed. I didn't really remember when I'd gone to sleep or when I'd woken up.
大丈夫だな。
I looked around and made sure none of the scenery had changed, then walked up the steps in front of me. Miyashita Park was just a few minutes away from Shibuya Station. It was also known as Homeless Park. This was where I lived after I left the dorm. The first floor was a huge parking lot. The second story had a futsal field. I don't know what that is. And a climbing wall. It had been mostly abandoned during the recovery efforts after the Shibuya earthquake. After the earthquake, people who'd lost their family, or who never had family to begin with, gathered here en masse. Mitaki Park, which was right next door, was supposed to be the evacuation point for this area, but Miyashita had always been a mecca for the homeless, so everyone gathered here. When people gathered, so did many different things. Containers filled with food, blankets, and tents. Even the trailer for an RV that was left behind when its owner fled Shibuya. Every part of the park was overhauled to create a place for people to live. The parking lot, the futsal field, the climbing wall, etc. And the next thing anyone knew, there was a society here that was big enough that the government couldn't force them out. Then some group of idiots came around to try and turn the place into temporary housing. That was shot down in less than a month. As a result, even though you could find beautifully rebuilt skyscrapers just a street away, Miyashita Park became one of Japan's biggest slums, a place where those with no home would gather to stare up at the lights.
これ、いいですか？
I spoke to the man who sold newspapers, magazines, and everything else as I picked up a newspaper which had today's date on it, October 1st.
お、タク、珍しいな新聞なんて。いいぞ、持ってけ。
いいんですか？
どうせ余るしな。それにほれ。
He showed me the snacks and alcohol at his feet. He must have sold a lot today. There were a lot of people in the park who had enough money that they could have stayed in a capsule hotel if they wanted to.
ああ、してんならできれば別のとこにな。ゴミにうるさくなってるからよ。
I thanked him and went to leave.
おいタク、電気代か。
はい。そうですけど。
ならついでに俺の分も頼む。南のまっちゃんからだっつって渡してくれ。
He handed me a 1,000 yen bill. I nodded, took it, and headed deeper into the park with my newspaper. Oh, so his name was Ma-chan. Miyashita Park was divided into north and south halves by a road. If he said he was from the south, that must mean that there was a Ma-chan on the north side who I hadn't met yet. The administrative office on the south side. Just like the name implied, it was where all the administration was done for Miyashita Park. It kept things peaceful between the government and the park occupants, resolved disputes between the homeless, and maintained all the facilities at the park. I knew the woman there by her face, but not her name. I gave her the electric bill, which was due on the 1st of the month, along with Ma-chan's part. Life in the park might seem carefree and lawless from the outside, but it was actually much stricter than you'd find in some families.
はいよ、確かに。はみ出たり勝手に住み着こうとしているやつは
Everyone who lived on the outside rim of the outer rim of the park, including me, since I lived on the far south, had been asked by the management to keep an eye out for that.
大丈夫だと思います。
When I'd looked earlier, I hadn't seen anything change around my place.
最近物騒だからね。気をつけなよ。見慣れないやつがいたらすぐに言いな。
え？
知ってんだろ？ラブホテルの事件とか。
はい。わかりました。
I was startled, but quickly nodded. I suddenly felt like they were criticizing me for hiding something. The corridor that connected the north and south ends of the park. This place, which overlooked Meiji-dori, was the one part that hadn't really changed since before the earthquake. There were cracks here and there, but the government had forbidden people to put things here because it would ruin the view and might not be safe. I leaned up against the rail and spread open the newspaper with the setting sun shining down on me. There was a column on the front page about the Love Hotel incident, but no new information. There was nothing in the article about the girl who was found at the scene, or how this could be related to what happened 6 years ago. Have they not figured that out yet? The other thing I forgot to mention is when, what was his name, Shinji? When he asked the girl, like, do you have it or don't have it? I'm guessing it's like some sort of ability or powers, maybe something similar to the Gigalomaniacs? Or maybe they had and they just weren't announcing it. If it had something to do with the incidents from 6 years ago, then so did Don't Look and Audio Bleed. Did that mean they weren't suicides? If the killer had driven them to suicide, then it was probably the same person behind 3 incidents. But was he working alone or part of a group? Or maybe people who were somehow related to the incidents from 6 years ago were killing themselves one after another. Maybe I should look at what the 3 cases had in common again. Damn it, what the hell? My hand went up to the new bandage on my cheek. I rubbed it several times to make sure it was still there, and I bet you he still hasn't contacted any of his friends to let them know he's okay. I took out my smartphone. The data I'd recorded at the scene had been deleted by the police. I probably should have just counted myself lucky they didn't take the phone itself. I'd lost my biggest clue to the case.
追うべきじゃないってことなのかな。
Maybe this was just out of my league. Maybe it would be stupid to get involved. Okay, let's check this out. So we got a guy who's probably the one who runs that what do they call it again? Um some sort of like a group home or something, and then you got those kids. Did those kids die? Like, he actually looked quite happy. They all looked happy. Suddenly I got a call on my phone. I checked the name and hit the answer button.
はい。もしもし。
Oh, okay.
もう来ておるぞ。いつもの席じゃん。
This girl looks like she's from a completely different visual novel. Like, she looks way too cutesy and pastel-y. Like, she does not look like she fits in this world at all.
どうも。
As always, the waitress's appearance and manners were a mystery to me. I like how even he acknowledges, like, she just looks odd. I bowed and went to my seat. Sarika was there already, reading a manga. She was fiddling with her Garo Froggy cell phone strap without realizing it, as usual. It really was a strange habit, and a nuisance to the people around her. Cafe Lax, the preferred hangout of the newspaper club, was just a 10-minute walk from Shibuya Station. The owner was a manga fan, and the walls were lined with many volumes. There was free Wi-Fi, the prices were good, and if it wasn't crowded, you could sit there for hours as long as you bought a single drink. The most important part was, since it was in a hard-to-find spot, barely anyone from Hekiho knew about it, so I didn't have to worry about running into anyone I knew. As usual, there was barely anyone there, just a single couple that appeared to be in college. I ordered my usual Mountain View and sat down.
何読んでるんだ？
ああ、タク。そう。なんだろう、これ。
は？
適当に撮ったから。
Sarika went and put the manga back on the shelf, then came and sat back down.
はい、これ制服。のんちゃんから言われてクリーニングしといたから。
悪いな。
I took the bag containing my uniform from Sarika. It was the uniform that had gotten covered with blood at the Love Hotel.
今日、学校は？
言ってないよ。タクもでしょ？
I nodded. I hadn't felt like it at all.
のんちゃんたちに連絡は？
メールはしといた。
When I got up this morning, I sent both of them a text saying I was okay. They both sent back responses almost immediately, but neither of them said much about what had happened. They probably weren't mentioning it for my sake.
で、どうだ？大丈夫か？
うん、まあ。死んでる人を見るのは初めてじゃないし。
Sarika spoke in a normal tone of voice as she drank her favorite grapefruit juice. She didn't seem like she was lying. That's how she's always been ever since she was a kid. It wasn't that she didn't have any feelings, she just got over them very quickly.
タクは？大丈夫？
Now that she asked, I wasn't sure how to answer the question. The waitress brought me my Mountain View. I nodded and took it. Was I okay?
嘘マジで？それ最低じゃん。
マジマジ超焦ったっつーの。空気読めっつう話でさ。
I spun the ice in my drink as I listened to the couple's irritating conversation. Sarika silently waited for my answer. I knew that face. She'd been my friend since we were kids. There was no point in trying to hide it.
正直言うと、迷ってる。
迷ってるって何を？
事件を追うかどうか。
Sarika seemed genuinely shocked.
本当に？すいません。グレープフルーツもう一つ。
Sarika raised her hand and ordered another drink.
いつものタクだったらチャンスだとか思って突っ走ってない？
That might be true, but things were different this time, after what I'd gone through.
そりゃホテルは怖かったけどさ。
Circa continued as if she knew exactly what I was thinking.
昔都市伝説とか追っかけてた時もそうだったじゃん。ほら、冒険だって言って病院に忍び込んだの覚えてる？
I nodded. I just had a dream about it.
あの時も怖かったけど、この怖さは他の人が経験してないもんなんだ、貴重なんだって泣きながらさ。
お前も泣いてたじゃん、あの時。
そうだっけ？ほれ、残すなよ。どうも。
Circa took her glass of juice and gulped it down.
で？
う？
いや、それで。
何が？
Come on.
そうか。だからさ、他の人が経験してないことを手に入れたんだからさ、それが怖かろうがなんだろうがチャンスだってタクなら言うかなって思って。
Her voice was light as she drank her juice, but her words didn't feel light at all. Something other people hadn't experienced. Something different from other people.
たまに頭いいんだか悪いんだかわからなくなるよな。
I stared at Serica's face. How much did she understand about what she was saying?
何？ダメだよ。あげないよ。
She moved the juice away from me. I was wrong. She probably didn't realize anything. Actually, she probably wasn't even thinking about anything. She really was dumb.
バイトにんなこと言われてもね。
だろ？やる気がないのかって。ねえよ、普通に。
なあ、渋谷地震の被災者のコメントの話ってしたことあったっけ？
何それ？
I was pretty sure I told her a bunch of times. Well, whatever. Time for a lecture.
地震直後の混乱が収まった後、大量のマスコミが被災者に対して押しかけただろ。まだカオスチャイルド症候群者っていう言葉がなかった頃に。
Yeah, let's get into this whole chaos child syndrome. They mentioned it, but I don't think they really went into a lot of detail what that is. Of course, I'd been in a coma for about a year after the earthquake, so I'd only investigated it after I woke up.
その取材の論調の多くは民度の高さを訴えるものだった。これだけの震災にもかかわらず、暴動や略奪などの犯罪がほとんど起きていない。これは得難いことなんだって。実際そうなんだと思うよ。何が今一番辛いですかって聞かれた時、大半の被災者が地方の家族に自分の無事を伝えてやれないこととか、子供に好物を与えてやれないこととか、とにかく他人を心配しててさ。でもそんな中で一人の被災者が言ったんだよ。
I remembered what they'd said word for word. It had left a huge impression on me.
頑張れという部外者。正直うなずいたよ。心底。
They said exactly what I was thinking. I didn't know who they were, but I admired them anyway. Those feelings were the exact opposite of all the excited, fired up people on the outside.
これを言った人は僕に近い人だっていう気がするんだ。ただ一連の出来事をネットで見ていた他人とは違う。そして、ただ被災しただけの人とも違う。
タクの両親のこと？そういえば復興祭合わせの飲み、テニサーの連中も来るって。
マジで？そしたら絶対タク飲みじゃ無理じゃん。
I was different. I was different than the people who just lived normal lives in Shibuya. I ripped the bandage off my cheek. The wound had closed up. My face was back to normal. I was back to normal. The case was right in front of me. I had a huge mystery to investigate. I wasn't about to just be caught up in something. As a right-sider, it was my job to jump right into the middle of all of this information, right? I could feel something like excitement mixed with a sense of duty welling up inside me. I couldn't stop myself from smiling.
また危険な目に遭うかもしれないぞ。
事件のこと？
I nodded. Serka laughed a little strangely. And then for some reason she patted me lightly on the shoulder. I didn't know what that meant, but I started to laugh too. Serka nodded.
よし、それならまずラブホテルの事件から行こっか。
Serka took out her Pocom. She typed into it with a practiced hand. She seemed to be loading a video file.
なんだそれ。
これ、現場でタクが撮ってた録画データ。
Oh,
警察
see?
に
And
消される前にストレ
here
ージに
he's
上げ
calling
て
her
おいたの。
dumb. By the time I got back home, the sun had long since set and it was past 8 p.m. I realized that I'd barely eaten anything since arriving at the Love Hotel, and suddenly felt very hungry, so I'd eaten a meal at Lax.
そういえば、こないだ来た時から気になってたんだけど、電気ポット変わった？前はもっと。あ、ここ物置にしたんだ。
Serka had followed me home. She started to glance around the room and offered her opinions on the way it was laid out. She would open drawers and be surprised even though there was nothing important inside, or look at new files about the case and tell me their contents at a glance. She always was a little strange like that. She would be surprised by the most obvious things, but sometimes she would show startling insight. And wait.
なんかテンション高いな。
She laughed another strange laugh.
事件を追うのが楽しいのか？
というより、ただやりたいことは行けるところまで行かないと気持ち悪いだけ。結果はどうあれ、そうじゃないと意味ないじゃん。人間、いつ死ぬかわかんないんだから。せっかく今死んでないのに。
I see, I thought. She was right. A sound came from my PC. The copy operation was finished.
よし。そしたら元のストレージのやつは削除してくれ。
なんで？
物が物だからな。他の人間に見られたら困る。
このストレージ、私が個人的に使ってるやつだから大丈夫だよ。
それでもだ。誰でもアクセスできる可能性は少しでも潰しておきたい。そうだな。お前のポケコンのやつも念のため削除してくれ。
オッケー。タク、何してるの？
Okay, so I was informed I was mistaken where I thought that I had to do all positive delusions for like the initial run in order to get the correct one, but apparently that's not the case. So I've been doing all positive ones, so I feel like we're due for a negative one. So let's go ahead and pick that. She looked over at me while she rifled through my bookcases. Also, it looks like it is Pokecom. I guess it makes sense because it's like a computer in your pocket, similar to like Pokemon is Pocket Monster. Pokecom is a pocket computer, so my bad for saying that wrong. Oh wait, I gotta pick. There we go. I gotta make sure I actually choose it. Are you serious?
飲み物だよ。ゲンさんにもらった。吐き気を抑える効果があるんだ。
へえ、よく知ってるね。
Hehehe. And then some information I'd found before flashed across my mind. Of course, it was from Cool Cat Press. I've read about it in a certain special they'd run. If you put eye drops into a beer, it will make a girl feel aroused. Okay, what? This feels like one of the positive ones, not negative, but I feel like if you put eye drops in a drink, doesn't that just give you, like, horrible diarrhea? And that could kill somebody if you put, like, wasn't there, like, a case recently where, like, a woman killed her friend where she, like, 6 bottles of eye drops into, like, the woman's food or something and killed her? At the time, I hadn't believed it. In another issue, they'd said if you put eye drops in soda, it would make a girl go to sleep. This is fucked! Okay, I can see why this is negative, actually. Like, he's going into kind of rapey territory. I don't like this. Adding eye drops into a drink would create unusual side effects. I heard a rumor it was just an urban legend, though. But what would happen if you put eye drops into kakonto? There was a stupid teenage girl who didn't even know what kakonto was right in front of me. What a terrible way to talk about your friend. Should I try it? Oh, we're really getting like Takumi vibes from this one. I don't care for this. I prepared 2 cups like it was the most natural thing in the world and poured out the kakonto I'd made. And then, being very careful not to let Serika see me, I took the eye drops off the shelf. I hope he ends up drinking his own damn drink and then just suffers terrible diarrhea because of it and is horribly ill. Now to just add a few drops of it to this, and maybe it'd be enough to arouse even Serika. I tried adding a few drops, but wait a second. Cool Cat Press hadn't said anything about how much to use, so I had no idea how much it would take to get any effect. It felt like you'd need more than a few drops. Oh no. Okay, I just have to add the whole bottle! What if he just fucking kills her here? The problem was how to make sure Serika didn't see me.
今お前の分も作ってやるから座って待ってろよ。
ほんと？ありがとう。カッコン糖って初めて飲むな。
Serika did just what I told her. Hehe, so easy. While she sat on the sofa, I went around to where she couldn't see me and opened the lid on the eye drops, then poured the whole bottle in.
お待たせ。
My heart felt like it was pounding fast. I tried to act normal as I handed her the cup.
結構すごい匂いだね。薬みたい。
Oh shit.
いや、カッコン糖ってもともと漢方薬だし、そういう匂いなんだ。
健康には良さそう。
Serika laughed. It was lucky for me she was so stupid.
じゃあ、いただきます。
She put the cup to her lips with no hesitation, and then she started coughing. Yeah, I should have seen that coming. I must have added the wrong amount. I'll have to tell her what I did later and apologize. She doesn't die first. Yeah, she's probably gonna die.
大丈夫か?
Serika wouldn't stop coughing. Her body was twisting in pain. The cup fell to the floor and spilled the kakonto everywhere.
熱くおのえおい
This wasn't normal.
どうしたんだよ
And then, all too suddenly, she coughed up blood. The red liquid stained the sofa, the floor, and me.
なんだよこれ
Was I not supposed to mix kakonto and eye drops? No, no, you're not. Did I accidentally make something poisonous?
おのえおい
I tried to pat her back when her eyes suddenly rolled up into her head. She started to spasm and shake. All I could do was watch in shock. Then she fell into the bed, face up, and stopped moving. Blood was still dripping from the side of her mouth.
おのえ
She wasn't breathing.
嘘だろ死んだなんて嘘って言ってくれよ
Damn, that was dark. That was dark. I guess, you know, it lived up to its negative delusion. Man, makes me want to check out the other negative delusions.
Huh?
Serika was looking at me, her head tilted in surprise. There was no blood or drool dripping from her mouth, and her eyes weren't rolled into the back of her head.
嘘って何の話？
あいやなんでもない
もしかして私に何か嘘ついてる？
そういうんじゃないって気にするな
Okay.
Serika just did what I told her. I couldn't tell if she was obedient or just didn't care. But for now, I was saved. I took a drink from the cup of kokonto in my hands. It didn't taste like medicine. I hadn't been able to find any eye drops on the shelf, so I'd just given it to her normally. It was wrong to think about experimenting on a friend. Yeah, it
それに
is.
してもゲンさんいい人だよね。好きだな。
I guess
私
it it kind of like is going into like your, I mean, everybody has kind of more, what's the word I'm thinking of? Like intrusive thoughts. Like you think really fucked up things sometimes. I can't say that something like that would ever come to my mind to be like, let me put eye drops into my friend's drink and see what happens, but it definitely explores the darker side of people's psyche.
酒癖の悪さはどうにかしてほしいけどな。
でもタクが公園で気許してるのってゲンさんだけでしょ？やっぱりいい人だよ。
Was that why? Well, he did help me out a lot.
オッケー、削除したよ。
Serica put away her Pokecom. All right. I booted up my laptop next to the wall and sat down in the chair that folded out into a bed. As I went to load the video file into the player software, I happened to glance at its length.
26分？そんなにあの部屋にいたか？
Oh, Serica said.
違うと思う。あの時タクが気を失ってすぐに警察が駆けつけて、で私も気持ち悪くて吐いちゃってたんだけど、いつの間にかタクが落としたスマホを自分のポケットに入れてて、それで警察に連れてかれるパトカーの中でスマホのことに気づいて、そこで私が録画ボタンを止めたから。
So that was it. Come to think of it, I hadn't asked her how it had happened.
よく警察に消される前にストレージにあげる暇があったな。
Serica nodded as if she felt the same way.
たまたまだよ。警察に着いた時にまた気持ち悪くなっちゃってトイレに駆け込んで、そこであって思いついたの。
いや、すごいと思う。
Yeah, stop calling her stupid. Put some respect on her name. I really was. I'd passed out in the hotel, and the next thing I knew, I was at the station. Supposedly, I'd walked from the patrol car to my room, but my memory was vague and hazy. I took a big sip from the cup to force down my urge to vomit, and slowly let it sink into my stomach. If the recording was successful, then I should see what I saw back then. It happened only 2 days ago, but it had left such a strong impression on me that it didn't feel like much time had passed at all. I took a deep breath and told myself it was time to do this. I looked over at Serica. She nodded back at me, then looked at the monitor. Okay. I tried to steady my slightly shaking finger as I clicked the file. The first thing I noticed was the sound. The peaceful sound of a music box that filled the room coming from that spinning bed. A dark, gloomy room. It had a curtain in the back and a rotating bed behind it. It was that room. The same emotions that I'd experienced before came flooding back to me through the blurry screen. I could sense my own hesitation from my gasping breath. Serica grabbed my shoulder at the sudden sound.
大丈夫。確か僕が床を踏み鳴らしたんだ。
そっか。
The camera was slowly moving toward the back of the room. At some point, my breathing matched my breathing from the recording. It scared me, so I pulled away a little and took a deep breath to isolate myself from the person in the video. I heard that sound, the sound of the wire creaking as the bed spun. I could feel the panic coming through the screen. I wasn't sure what to do.
進むぞ。
I could tell Serica was gulping a little. As I spoke, the camera kept moving forward. I could hear Serica's soft gasp in the video. The police officer and that woman were lying on the floor. I hadn't realized it at the time, but the glass was scattered all around. The camera quickly panned without warning. Okay, pan, video recording term, refers to fixing the camera in a single location while changing the direction it faces. It was that bed. The silhouette behind the curtain was probably the man. The angle was off and wasn't pointed directly at the bed. At that point, I'd stopped paying attention to the smartphone. I heard a dull thud and the screen went black.
落としたのかな。
多分。
It seemed like I'd tripped and fallen backward. The phone had probably fallen from my hands. Was it black because the camera had fallen face down? Sarika's voice sounded like it was a little far away. The smartphone was still picking up sound, evidently. I could hear myself trying to open the door and swearing when it failed. That's right, I'd been fighting with the door then. And then... My body shivered as if it had gone numb. This was... I could hear it.
なあ、聞こえたよな。
I could hear it. The police said the surveillance cameras hadn't shown anyone else coming into the room, but I could hear it. The constant, rhythmic knocking. Somehow, it made me feel uneasy and scared. Someone had been on the other side of that door. And suddenly, the screen moved. Oh shit, so wait, the person... Was someone in the room who picked up the phone and showed... Oh wait, that was him. Okay, I was thinking that. I was like, is that him recording right now, or is that someone in the room who picked up his phone and is showing that? The screen was blurry, but the man was almost exactly in the center of the viewfinder. Had I picked up the smartphone? I couldn't remember. In the video, I ignored Sarika's voice and kept pointing the camera at the man. I could hear my own rough breathing, and I remembered how I'd felt then. And suddenly, I heard a snap. The screen moved violently for a second, and then for a moment it showed the girl. Then the angle changed again, and it stopped moving. The screen was covered in red blood, but...
天井か。
What I was looking at was probably the room's ceiling. Since it didn't move at all, this was probably where I'd passed out and dropped it. Just like before, the camera was still recording the sound. I could hear Sarika vomiting and what sounded like someone falling over. They caught the police officers running into the room. They were asking Sarika what was going on. She was probably the only one there who was still conscious. Shortly after, the screen went black. Sarika had probably put the phone into her pocket, just like she'd said. I could hear an irritating noise that must have been the sound of the phone scraping the skirt's fabric. The screen stayed black, but it kept picking up the nearby sound. Then, at the very end, there was a quick shot of the inside of a patrol car. I realized that at some point I'd leaned my body toward the screen. I sat back in my chair. I'd known what was going to happen, but this was still hard. To be honest, I was lucky the phone was dropped, and a lot of it wasn't clearly recorded. I didn't feel as much of an urge to vomit as I'd expected, but I was still sweating from a nasty, unpleasant feeling. I gulped down the last bit of liquid in my cup.
尾上、大丈夫か？
I asked Sarika, and then...
ねえタク、最後のとこ何か変なの映ってなかった？
何？
Weird. The whole thing was weird. Not a second of it was normal.
部屋の奥に進んでからさ。
Sarika moved the mouse to rewind the video. I couldn't tell whether she was tough, simply dense, or maybe just felt like it was nothing but a video. But she advanced through the shocking scene with no hesitation. Sarika's that friend that would show you, like, really fucked up videos from, like, gore sites in high school and just not even flinch. Just like, damn, that girl, she's got guts of steel.
ほら、これ。
And you're
窓の
gonna...
外。
I guess it's like he said, you know, she has her moments where she's very perceptive about things.
あ？
She caught something he didn't. I could see the wall of the Love Hotel across the street from the open window. There was something there.
なんだ？これ。
虫かな？
Damn! Holy cow, that's... How did she catch that?
こんなでかい虫がいたら、クルスが建物ごと爆破しに来るぞ。
She hated bugs.
じゃあいたずら書き？
Why was her first answer a bug and her second answer the sensible one?
いや、ちょっと待って。
Oh, it's
なん
the
かどっかで
it's that picture, the sumo sticker, right? I switched from my player software to my editing software and then blew up that part of the screen. Damn it, I could make it out, but it was so far away it was blurry. The resolution was too low.
ほら、虫じゃん。羽広げてる。
I don't know if I'm looking at the right thing here.
違うって。やっぱりなんかどっかで見た気が。
What? I turned around at the loud sound.
よはただいま帰った。待たせて悪かったな。
There was a drunk man with a bottle of booze in his hand. Give me a break. Of course, no one had been waiting for him.
もっと静かに入ってきてよ。
おお、ゲンさん。この前はありがとね。
この前。
ラブホテルの事件のこと教えてくれたじゃん。
おお、そうだったか。ああ、どうでもいい。事件か、よかったな。タクは新聞記者になりたいんだからな。
No, I didn't. According to Gen, every day I supposedly wanted to be a different thing. Last time it was a movie director.
よはただいま帰ったぞ。なあ、タク、よく聞け。世が世であるために今日はこんなものを手に入れてきた。どこだ？
He started patting down the pockets of his very old coat. This annoying old man was Gensan. He was the elder ruler of this park, the CEO of a company with a 3 billion yen a year salary, and the best friend of my father Jiro, at least according to him. My dad's name wasn't even Jiro. He was related to a clan of foreign nobles, so if he ever needed to, he could summon a foreign special forces team to do his bidding. And his dad works at Nintendo. Except last week, his bed had been taken over by a stray dog, so he'd had to come stay with me.
ねえぞ。世の一番大事なものもねえじゃねえか。やべえぞ。証明できねえ。
ちょっとゲンさん、ズボン脱がないでよ。
Gensan was always loud when he got drunk, and when he got really drunk, he was even louder. Today, he wasn't very drunk. I had no idea what he was like when he was sober. I'd never seen it happen, or heard of it even happening. Sometimes, or often actually, at least once a week, he would come by my room drunk, talk for a while, and then leave to search the park for more alcohol.
あったぞ、嬢ちゃん。あった。ほれ、見ろ。
He was obnoxious as hell, to put it mildly, but I couldn't chase him away. Actually, I couldn't complain about him much at all. When I'd left the dorm half a year ago, I'd ended up in the bottom half of Miyashita Park. Since the upper half kept the rain off, the bottom half was one of the most popular spots. A lot of the reason I was able to get this spot, and even get this RV, was because of Gensan. Back when I'd lived in the dorm, I'd done some cooking for the homeless in Miyashita Park as part of our volunteer activities. Gensan had remembered that. A nobleman does not forget his debts, was all he said. And then somehow I'd been given this place. He was also the one who taught me how to get by in this place.
あ、そうだ、タク、これ見ろ。変わんねえか。
Gensan took something out of his pocket. I ripped the copy of my favorite magazine out of his hands. I quickly glanced over to Sarika.
大嫌い。ゲンさん、大嫌い。
She was mumbling that over and over to herself. I thought she'd liked him. Good, she didn't see it. I breathed a sigh of relief and hid it somewhere nearby.
いくら？
Gensan raised a single finger. This was one rule, for example. It was the first thing I'd learned in the park. The homeless would never ever ask you for money. It was the one thing they could never say. Money was either found lying on the ground or earned by working or selling things. It wasn't something other people gave you. I took out a 100 yen coin from my wallet and gave it to him. Gensan grabbed it and put it into his pocket like he didn't really care.
おお、 最近よく見んな、それ。
He was looking at the PC monitor as he spoke. It's got to be that sticker, right? For a moment, I didn't know what he meant. My eyes met Serica's for just a moment. The monitor was still displaying the blurry, blown-up image. He saw it a lot.
ちょっとケンさん。
これ知ってるの？
野球してえな。
He was in his own little world. What was this guy's problem? I got closer to him.
ケンさん、これ見たことあるの？
ああ、なもんお前、どこにでもあんだろうよ、これ。例えば駅前の。駅前って誰だ？
は？駅前って、駅前なんでしょ？渋谷の駅前の。
だからほれつうかタク、おめえ前に見せてくれたやつにも映ってんだろ。
Huh?
ほれ、何年前だったか、おめえがカラオケに張り込んでなんかを初めて抑えたとかっつってよ。
That was last weekend, actually. When I'd been uploading the photos of the crime scene I'd taken from the karaoke box, Genson had come by and seen them. This was it.
タク、ここ。
It was an image of a karaoke box I'd hidden in to take pictures of the crime scene. It was on the 5th floor. I could see the same mark. I switched from the player software to the editor software just like before, and magnified that part of the image. Yep, there it is. And then I realized what it was. That's right. I had seen this thing before. And just like Genson said, it was something you could find all over Shibuya. Something that had been there for a long time.
これ、力士シールド。
When I saw the club room for the first time in 3 days, I was stunned.
いや、努力はしたんだよ。
I'd been waiting all morning to tell Itoi the big discovery I'd made yesterday. I'd stayed up almost all night finding all the information I could on it, and then forced myself to wait until school ended to tell him. I figured that just sending pictures to his phone or trying to explain it in words would just confuse him. I wanted to stand in front of the board in the club room with all the information we'd learned so far pinned up on it, and use the club time to really work through it. But there was nothing at all. I could only think of one person who would do that.
クルスか。
昨日の帰り際な。危なすぎるから絶対にダメだって言って。
Was it because of what happened in the Love Hotel? In as angry a voice as I could muster, I said.
どうして止めてくれなかったんだよ。
だから努力はしたんだよ。黙りなさいって言われて黙ったけど。
そこをなんとかしてさ。
無理言うなよ。お前ならなんとかできたのか？
無理言うなよ。
Itoi shrugged as if to say, see? Just imagining it scared me a little. Doing something about Kurusu was absolutely impossible. No one in Hekiho was capable of such a thing. I pointed to the PC on the desk.
データは？
ハードディスクごと叩き壊されなかっただけ運が良かったんじゃないか？
So the data was gone too. Itoi was probably joking, but if Kurusu thought she needed to do it, she would have.
尾上、さっきから何プリントアウトして。
はい、これ。
Serica dropped a stack of papers on the desk. I looked down and saw that it was images and articles about the case. It was the ones that were uploaded to the newspaper club's server.
どうしたんだこれ。
状況たるもの、データのバックアップは常に取れってタクいつも言ってるじゃん。というか、タクだって取ってるでしょ？
Well, yes, but... Serica flipped through the papers.
ポケコンからだとなぜか画質が
This
少し
girl
落ちるんだよね。
is the true hero of the
サーバー
story.
にもう一回上げ直して。
If it wasn't for her, they wouldn't have that video. He did say he had backups of like the stuff that were in the server, but still, like she's very handy.
ちょっと待った。
Sarika went to stretch a cable from her Pokecom to the PC, but I quickly stopped her.
画質これでいいの？
そうじゃなくて、いや、画質はこれでいいんだけど、サーバーに上げるのはちょっと待ってくれ。
I glanced at Ito as I spoke. The newspaper club server could be accessed from any PC in the school as long as you knew the password. Kurusu was spending her time with the student council getting ready for the culture festival, but there was a chance she might look at the server for some reason. Itoi nodded in agreement, a serious look on his face.
二人とものんちゃんのことを怖がりすぎだよ。のんちゃん優しいよ。ねえ、花ちゃん。うん。ほらね。
See what? Was Kazuki agreeing? She was just pounding down on the keyboard and mouse really hard.
そりゃ尾上や和樹は副部長に可愛がられてるけどさ。
あ、渋谷のクレープ屋台一緒にコンプリートしたんだよ。のんちゃん甘いものに詳しいんだ。
Sarika puffed out her chest, very proud of this information. I didn't care in the slightest.
それにどっちみちのんちゃんにはバレると思うよ。
That was probably true, yeah. If we kept pursuing the case as part of our work with the newspaper club, Kurusu was smart enough to catch on.
大丈夫だよ。話せば分かってくれるよ。
I simulated a variety of situations in my mind. All right, let's do... I'm so curious, it could go either way. So it's probably the positive one will be like, I got you these sweets, and she'd be like, oh, thank you so much. Let me show you my boobies. Negative will be her killing him. Okay, let's go with negative. I'm not going to go all negative this episode, but I feel like I've seen so many positive ones. We gotta go the other way now. Kurusu loved sweets. This was something that Sarika had said, and that I'd known about too. So would buying her something she liked from a famous sweet shop be enough to win her over? Would bribery work on someone as prim and proper as the student council president? It was worth a try. He's like, and I'll slip some eye drops into her grapes or whatever. Unless we could win her over, we weren't going to be able to continue with the case.
よし、これから賄賂を買いに行こう。伊藤、渋谷で有名なスイーツ店の上位3つを調べてくれ。
任せろ。これで副部長もイチコロだぜ。
It was time for the mission to begin.
というわけで、これ、クルスにプレゼント。
I knew that Kurusu was staying late after school to get ready for the festival. I handed her the present I just bought. Eito had found me a pancake place near Shibuya Station. It was a popular store that always had a line of girls outside. I heard it was one of the few places where you could get pancakes for takeout, so I quickly chose it. Standing in line with the girls for an hour was almost torture, but I somehow managed to do it.
これってエッグスンサンクスのパンケーキ？
そうだけど。
何を企んでるの？
そんな言い方ないだろ。せっかく買ってきたのに。
あなたが私にプレゼントを持ってくるなんて今までなかったもの。何か魂胆があるんでしょ？伊藤くん、どういうこと？
事件のことを追いかけたいから副部長に賄賂をみたいな。
あ、お前
You could have put up more of a fight than that.
すまん宮代。副部長の眼力には勝てなかった。
せっかく買ってきてくれたのは嬉しいけど、これ受け取れない。
Kurusu handed the pancakes back to me. I would take the pancakes and be like, I appreciate the present. I'm going to take this because you said it was a present, and I'm going to deny your request. She was always so serious about this stuff.
二人で仲良く食べなさい。
Now I just want
とっても
pancakes.
美味しいから。
Her face was smiling, but her eyes weren't. And then she's like, I put the eye drops in. What? That was so disappointing. The first one I did, the negative one, I killed someone. This one, she just rejected my pancakes. That was a little bit of a letdown. Should have done the positive one on that one. Yeah, that's what would happen. Kurusu would see through any attempt at bribery I could make. It was a bad idea to try and buy her off. Why would I want to split a pancake dinner with Itoi anyway? Or would it work better if Itoi didn't go with me?
よし、わかった。
いいのか？
Itoi must have been really surprised by my answer because he badly overreacted.
お前はそんなに勇敢なやつだったか？
やるときはやるんだよ。ただ、サーバーに上げるのは待ってくれ。慎重を期したい。
オッケー。
それから、とりあえず今はボードに情報を貼り付けるけれど、まとめ終わったら一旦剥がそう。ことは簡単じゃないんだ。
I love the way she says, okay, she's so cute.
それから、事件のことに関しては、とりあえずクルスに秘密にしよう。それでほとぼりが冷めるまで様子を見つつ、クルスが甘いものでも食べて機嫌がいい時に切り出すんだ。
オッケ
じゃねえだろ。ただのヘタレじゃねえか。
What?
ヘタレじゃない。もっとも成功率の高い方法を弾き出したらこうなるんだ。それをヘタレと呼ぶのはヘタレの定義として。
はいはい、わかったわかった。ほら尾上、地図貼るからそっち持て。
ー。オッケー。
Itoi and Serica took out the big map we used for the board.
説得を考えたらこれが一番確実なんだ。
He didn't get it at all. There was no way I could persuade Kurusu if I tried to go after her head on.
というか宮代、マジな話だけどさ。
He had a very serious tone in his voice as he hung up the top of the map. Huh? I'd been serious the whole time.
その大丈夫なのか、事件を追って。
だからいずれ説得する。ヘタレじゃないぞ。慎重なんだぞ。
じゃなくて、お前よっぽどのもん見たんだろ。そのラブホテルで。
Serica froze midway through the process of taping down the bottom of the map. So that was it? I hadn't told Itoi anything about the Love Hotel. I hadn't told him about what I'd seen or experienced there. I tried my best to give him a cheerful smile.
大丈夫だよ。問題ない。こんな大きなネタほっとけないだろ。
Itoi didn't answer. He stared at me as if trying to figure me out. And then he relaxed and laughed a little.
まあ電話の時点でそうじゃないかとは思ってたけどな。
He was probably talking about the call I'd made yesterday. After I'd made my discovery, I'd called Itoi to ask him to find all the information he could about the Love Hotel case. It had already been 3 days since it had happened. I hadn't been really following it, so I'd asked Itoi to put together what he could find.
はい、いいよ。
Serica finished pinning the map to the board. Okay, let's get started. It was a brand new map of Shibuya. We'd had to put it up from scratch again, but now that I looked at it, maybe that wasn't such a bad thing. I'd made a huge discovery which could impact the whole case. It was a good idea to start over from the beginning.
まず6年前の事件と日付の関連性があるという前提で進めよう。つまり今まで起きた3つの事件を一連のこととして考える。目的や犯人がいるとしたら、その正体はともかくとしてな。
ああ、3つ続いた以上はそうだろう。そうじゃなかったらまたその時考えればいい。
よし、場所から行くか。1件目の事件、通称こっちみんなは人難で起こったから。で、その遺体の画像が
Oh, I have to actually pick it. Okay, so the don't look one, that's this one. Oh, this is cool. I like this. Select this one. Yes. Ah, look at me actually getting to, you know,
で、その
interact
概
with
要
it.
が
I like it. It's like, have you been paying attention? You have to be the one to pick and choose each one. It's very small, but I'm like,
ちなみに同じ日付の6
I
年
like
前
being
の
able
事
to
件
actually be
は
involved in the story.
集団ダイブだから
Okay.
で、その概要が1件目はこんなもんだな。じゃあ2件目に行こう。通称音漏れ炭は深センで起こったから。で、その遺体の画像がで、その概要がちなみに同じ日付の6年前の事件は妊娠男だから。で、その概要がよし、じゃあ最後にラブホの事件だ。場所は道玄坂のラブホ街だから。で、概要だけど
I looked at Itoi and I could see he was nervous. He was worried, but at the same time, a little excited.
どうした？大丈夫か？
いや、そうだな。まずは伊藤がまとめてきたのを見せてくれるか？世間ではどういう認識になっているのかを知りたい。発表されていた名前は見たけど。
わかった。ちょっと待ってな。
Itoi got out his own Pokecom and started to fiddle with it. He linked to the printer over the network and printed out his files. Wait,
やっぱサーバーにはあげないんじゃんか。
当たり前だ。殴られるのは嫌だ。
だから怖がりすぎだってば。
I skimmed the printout that Itoi made for me. After all the cases we'd researched together, he knew how to summarize information into a single page like a pro. Itoi read from his own printout.
名前が発表されたのは昨日の夜だ。死んだのは柿田博則22歳。渋谷在住で更新でアルバイトしていたらしい。
更新？
なんで知らないんだ？景気のいいベンチャー企業だよ。
They'd been making a lot of money lately off the Shibuya reconstruction.
渋谷ニューズの情報通り、20代の男性だ。
さすが。そこはチェックしてるか。
That was about the only thing I could do, Itoi said as he nodded.
つーか、20代って言及したのは事件のあった日のネトラジ放送だぞ。まだその段階では、どの媒体も男性の変死体が発見されたとしか発表してなかったのに。ったく、どうやって調べてるんだか。
I couldn't agree more. How did Keisan do her research?
死因は首吊りによる窒息死。地上のもつれからの自殺と断定された。
え？
A suicide over a fight with a lover.
自殺と断定されたのか？
ああ、警察はそう発表した。あと出ている情報といえば、まあ死んだ柿田が優秀だったってことくらいか。 出来高のアルバイトで驚くほど稼いでいたらしい。
地上のもつれって、その相手は？いや、地上って言うなら交際していた相手がいたはずだろ。
ああ、なるほどな。
Itoi looked through a bunch of files on his Pokecom.
いや、それに関しては何もないな。
目撃者は？
発見したのはホテルの従業員だけど、それ以外には何も。もちろんお前らのことも出てない。
But it smells like a cover-up of what was going on, so they hadn't said anything about the other girl at the scene.
タク。
Sarika was staring at me, confused. She was probably thinking the same thing. I could understand why there wasn't any information about us. The police had said there wouldn't be. To be honest, we were just gawkers. There was no real point in telling anyone we were there. But that girl clearly seemed to be involved in the case. If they said he got into a fight with his girlfriend, then it didn't make sense not to report the girl who was there.
未成年による配慮？
I wasn't sure, but she had looked young. Once again, apparently she's supposed to be a student at this school, and nobody knows about her. She definitely wasn't older than 19. No, even then they'd said something. Whenever there was a problem with someone dating underage girls, they never reported the girl's name, but they always reported her existence.
どうした？
説明する。
I pinned up the information that Itoi had given me.
ラブホの事件の遺体の仮装は、
これは？
ラブホの現場で撮った画像だ。
撮ったのか？
Itoi almost jumped on me in shock. I nodded.
正確には録画した映像を切り取ってプリントアウトしたやつだ。警察に消される前に尾上が個人のストレージに上げておいてくれた。
マジかよ。やばいだろこれ。どこにも出てねえぞ。
Itoi put his face up to the picture in excitement.
なんだ？座ったまま首を。ワイヤーかこれ。
He mumbled to himself as he stared at it, trying to memorize every last detail.
なんだよこれ。おい、一体何があったんだ？
As I listened to Itoi speak excitedly, I looked over to Sarika. I wasn't sure why I was looking at her. But she nodded as if she understood. I nodded back. The police had told us not to tell anyone, but I didn't care. I slowly started to explain what had happened to Itoi. How we'd made it into the hotel undetected. How the room we'd seen from outside was where we'd found the body. How we'd gone inside and found the police officer lying on the floor. How the body in the photo was sitting on a spinning bed and slowly rotating. How there had been another girl there, and how someone had tried to enter the room. But I didn't tell him how the door had unlocked itself. The police had told me I'd imagined it, and they'd made me realize I had no proof. Between my curiosity and my fear, I had been a mess at the time anyway. And more than anything, without any kind of proof, I wasn't sure it had happened at all. When I finished, Itoi's first questions were the same as mine had been.
現場にいた女に部屋に入ろうとしていた誰か。でも、その女はともかく誰かが部屋に入ろうとしていた形跡はなかったんだろ？
That was right. That was what the police had told me. But
ノックの音が聞こえたんだ。それは映像にも音声として残ってる。
音だろ？誰かがドアの向こうにいてドアを叩いたという証明じゃない。
いや、理屈で考えればそうだけど、それに確かにあれは誰かがドアを。
Itoi cut me off, clearly irritated.
理屈で考えればって一番らしくない言葉だぞ。理屈のみで考えなければいけないってのが理屈バカのお前だろう。
Don't call me an idiot. I just prefer to cover all my bases.
はっきりしてるところから行こうぜ。だろ？
Damn it. He could only say that because he hadn't heard it in person. That strange, eerie sound which hung in the depths of your ears and wouldn't let go. But that was true.
その通りといえばそうなんだよな。
I hadn't seen someone trying to enter the room for myself. Maybe he took my silence as agreement.
で、現場にいた女か。あ、だから交際相手を気にしてたのか。
女っていうより女の子かな。
Huh?
女の子？
あの子きっとそんなに私と年変わらないよ。それに上ってこともないと思う。同じか1、2個下くらいじゃない？
そうかな。
I wasn't sure, but if Serica said so, she was probably right. Serica never had any evidence or proof for her statements, but she was often correct.
でも、その女の子のことに触れている情報はなかったんだろ
I looked back at Itoi to check.
ああ、ゴシップ誌から新聞社の正式な発表、まとめ引きまで全部覗いたけど、そんな情報はなかった。
I see.
だとすれば、やっぱりこっちから追うしかないか。
I flipped through the remaining papers.
別の手がかりがあるのか？
映像を見返して気づいたことがあるんだ。ちゃんとした理屈だ。なんせちゃんとした証拠があるからな。
へへ。
小さい男だな。
Say what you like. It was finally time to tell Itoi what I'd found.
昨日作った綺麗に写ってる例のシールの画像はこれなんだかわかるか？
Itoi looked at the picture for a moment, uncertain.
見覚えあるな。なんだっけな。
He used his Pokecom to run a
そう、
search.
力士シールだろ？
そう呼ばれてる。何の目的で貼られてるかわからない謎のシール。期限は諸説あるけど、ネットで騒がれ出したのは2007年頃。
At one point, they were famous enough that the TV stations were reporting on them, but after the 2009 Shibuya earthquake, everyone stopped talking about them. The city where the stickers were going up had been destroyed. People had bigger things to talk about. But starting sometime last year, they'd started to appear in Shibuya again.
目的はいろいろ噂されてる。単なるいたずら説はもちろんだけど、タギング説とか宗教による結界説だとか。
Now, tagging, street art terminology, the act of painting the symbol of an individual or group on public property. These symbols are referred to as tags. While tags are effectively signatures, they are sometimes considered to be street art in and of itself. Since the vast majority of taggers don't get permission for their work, tagging is often considered to be a form of vandalism.
変わったとこだと、本当に力士の人が自分の顔を貼ってる説ってのもある。でもこれは違うと僕は思っていて、そもそも力士シールなんて呼ばれてはいるけれど、それは単に太っている顔だからっていうだけの理由で誰かがそう言い出したことで、力士をモデルにしたなんてことは確たる証拠として。
ちょっとストップ。
Itoi cut me off just as I was getting started. Come on, man, it was just about to get good.
いや、それが何だっつんだ？そのシールと事件と何か関係あんのか？
わからない。
は？
まだわからないんだ。でもな、こっちみんなの現場付近にあった力士シールは、
Was this one.
これ、この前お前に見せた画像を
So that's
拡
going
大
to
し
be
た
a
やつ。
thing. It's like if you see a sumo sticker, there's a chance that a murder might happen in that spot. I guess the question is like, when did that sticker go up before the murder happened? Did it go up before? After? Oh, obviously it would have been before. Well, I shouldn't say obviously, but I mean, who would have had time to slap a sticker on, like, after the murder happened, especially in this case when there was people in the room?
力士シールか？
うん。
おい、まさか。
ああ、ラブホの現場にもあったんだよ。やっぱり現場が見える位置に。
じゃあ、あれか？音漏れたんもか？
いや、それもまだわからない。昨日調べたんだけど、少なくとも今まで撮った現場周りの画像には映ってなかった。でも、2つ続いた偶然にかけてみるのはありだって、今回証明されただろ。
Itoi fell silent, as if he were thinking about something. Ah, I was hoping he'd be a little more surprised. But I guess that's the best I could expect. Or maybe there was just too much new information coming in at once for him to keep up.
ちなみに、ラブホテルの事件と同じ日付の6年前の事件は、
We're very well versed with the crucifixion case.
で、その概要が。今のところ日付はともかく、事件の内容に関しては6年前とそこまでリンクしてないように思える。集団ダイブと同じ日付のこっちみんなは、被害者は一人だし、それにまだ自殺と決まっているわけではないし。
And they seem to be very far apart from each other, like the cases that connect by day, they're not in the same spot at all.
妊娠男と同じ日付の音漏れ炭は、腹部に異物を埋め込んだっていう点は一緒だけど、そもそも被害者は女性だ。貼り付けとラブホの事件は目立った共通点は見つからない。だから他に事件を追う線がない以上、力士シールからもう一度事件を探ってみるのもありだと思う。
But maybe I was overthinking this, but there was no telling what else would be related to the case. Just in case, I decided to put up the data on the other new gen incidents from 6 years ago. October 10th, Vampire. October 23rd, Numbskull. October 28th, Finger Food. November 4th. Oh, how do they pronounce it again? DQN? DQN? I was always saying it DQN. Yeah, that should do it. I looked at the board and nodded in satisfaction.
現状の情報の整理はこんなものか。
コーヒー飲む人。
As I finished going over the information, Sarika got some cups ready. Oh no. Kazuki, who'd been ignoring the conversation up until now, suddenly stood up. She grabbed the cups from Sarika with a speed you'd never believe she possessed.
いいよ、花ちゃん。いつもお茶組やってくれてるでしょ。
Kazuki shook her head rapidly from left to right, then motioned for Sarika to sit down. Oh, is she like possessive? She's like, I make the coffee around here. Good work.
おのえ、大丈夫だって。せっかく用意してくれるんだから。
I practically forced Sarika to sit down in her chair.
でも。
No, there was no way I was letting Sarika do any kind of cooking. How bad was she? She was so bad I couldn't even let her make coffee. Ah, that's why. She was so bad she once asked me what kind of dish soap I used to wash the vegetables. I breathed a sigh of relief. She reluctantly sat down. Even Kazuki was relieved enough that you could actually tell what she was feeling for once. She started to make the coffee. I turned around to see if Itoi needed any. Oh gosh, I'm just waiting for, what's her name? Kurusu to just burst in at any moment. He was still thinking. He must have been thinking hard. He didn't even seem to notice that Sarika was making coffee, which normally would have been cause for panic. I decided for now to put the coffee that Kazuki had made in front of him. He seemed to understand the situation and stretched out his hand.
なあ、そのホテルの現場で録画した映像ってまだ残ってるんだろ？
まあな。 僕のポケコンとスマホに入ってる。それ以外は危ないから削除したけど。
Itoi glared at my Pokecom for a moment, and then turned toward me.
見せてくれ。
I wasn't sure what to do. He must have been able to sense my uncertainty.
警察から口止めされてるのか。
He's like, well, we're way past that
いやいや
at this point.
でも気にしてるのはそこじゃない。だいたいお前にはもう何があったか喋ってるし。そうじゃなくて、なんていうか、これを見ちゃうと。
In a TV show or a movie, this is where the hero would say, there's no going back. Undergoing a shocking event changes the way you feel about the rest of your life. When you learn a hidden secret, it changes you. Just like when I learned about my parents.
ゴーだろ。見せてくれ。
Itoi saw I was hesitating and cut me off.
お前らは直接見てきたもんなんだろう。俺も見ておきたい。
It didn't seem like he was going to change his mind.
わかった。
じゃあ PC モニターで見ようよ。大きい方が見やすいでしょ。
Serica, the only person who didn't seem to understand the gravity of the situation, spoke up. I feel like they're going to have it up on the big screen. Kurusu's going to walk in and see like the worst of it. Or maybe she just didn't think it was important.
しんちゃんは部員だよ。見ないと。
だな。
Itoi smiled as if he'd relaxed a little. He'd brought his hands up to his cheeks and gave them a slap to psych himself up.
よし。じゃあ一時的にデスクトップにコピーしよう。今ブラウザ閉じて。
And then he froze. Uh-oh, what?
おい。
やばい。おい、見ろ、これ。
Itoi pointed to the monitor, his voice shaking. Serica and I hurried behind him to see what he was looking at, and gulped.
何この動画。
わかんねえ。今、いきなりまとめウィキに貼られた。
Is it their video? The curtains opened and the man appeared. There was no mistaking it. It was the room in the Love Hotel. It's not the same video. The man must have been Kakita. I couldn't see her face, but was that the girl? It had to be. Her clothes matched what I'd remembered.
おい。おい。
Oh, good. Just the way his head is just completely twisted around like that. Ugh. The bed spun around and the wire dug into Kakita's neck. There was no sound in the video, but I could hear the sound of the wire in the music box in my mind. Kakita's face took on a color very similar to what I'd seen in person, and the footage ended.
おい。なんだよこれ。マジかよ。 おい、宮代！
I almost jumped off the ground.
あ、ごめん。
なんだこれ！お前が撮ったのか？
Itoi yelled at me hysterically. I quickly shook my head.
そんなわけないだろ。僕は部屋の中にいたんだ。
じゃあ、なんだよこれ！
知らないって。僕にわかるわけ。
Serica's hand suddenly reached out for us.
なんだよ！
She said, no fighting.
ストップ。落ち着こう。タク、しんちゃん。喧嘩はダメだよ。
She grabbed us both by the cheek and pinched hard. Ow, ow.
痛いって！
落ち着いた？もう怒鳴らない？喧嘩しない？
This really hurts. Please stop. Itoi and I nodded, and Serica let go.
何すんだ。
だって二人とも怒鳴るんだもん。
だからってお前な。
Itoi rubbed his cheek and gave Serica an angry glare. She must have grabbed him really hard because I could see a red mark forming on his face in the shape of her hand. Do I have one of those too?
喧嘩はダメ。今にも殴りかかりそうだったよ。
Serika repeated. She didn't seem to think she'd done anything wrong at all. No, maybe she hadn't. Kazuki gave Serika a thumbs up. Serika gave her a satisfied thumbs up in return. I don't get it.
あれだな。将来、友達を叩いちゃいけませんって言いながら自分の子供を叩くタイプだな。
Itoi's words impressed me. It was one of the most accurate predictions I'd heard in years. Serika frowned and said she'd never do that.
で、なんだろうね、これ。
She pointed to the monitor. She didn't seem too bothered by it. She must have been used to seeing gory videos because she looked pretty calm. I'm telling you, this girl, she goes on gore sites and just looks stuff up for funsies. I rubbed my cheek as I looked at it again. I know she says she's had experience looking at dead bodies, but still.
外から撮影したものだよな。
あの現場に間違いないのか？
I nodded, a little uncertain.
多分、遺体の状況もあのままだったと思う。
くそ、なんなんだ？
ねえ、保存しておいた方がよくない？
ああ、そうだな。こんなもんいつ消されるかわかんねえ。
That was enough to bring Itoi back to his senses. He saved the file to the PC with a slightly more unsteady hand than usual. Kazuki was still playing her game, but the rest of us stared at the downloaded bar as it filled up little by little. And when it finished and the file was saved...
単にいたずらとかじゃないよね。
Serika knew better than anyone that this was no such thing, but she asked anyway. I nodded firmly.
なあ、これを撮った人間は、いや、誰が貼り付けた？
Itoi frowned.
ハッカーじゃないからな。俺ら素人レベルでわかるとしても IP アドレスくらいだろ。個人の特定まで行き着くのは無理だよ。
だよな。
Sometimes the media would say the police used an IP address to track down a criminal's address. But strictly speaking, that wasn't quite right. Under some special circumstances, like a customer paying for a static address, it was possible, but most of the time you couldn't track down an individual PC from an IP address. And even if you could, the most you could track down was a PC, not a person. Several years ago, this had led to a very famous false arrest case. What the hell were we supposed to do now? I scratched my head, confused.
おい、ついでた見ちゃおうぜ。
Huh?
お前がラブホテルで撮った動画だよ。さっきの映像を見ちゃった後だ。もうどうにでもなれだ。
Eitoi sounded like he was having a hard time believing what he'd seen was real. He'd already copied the file off the Pokecom and gone to open it. He probably was just overwhelmed. I know that was how I'd been.
間近で撮ってるから、相当だぞ。
I gave him a warning and he responded with a firm nod. He clicked on the file.
しんちゃん、本当に？
ああ、多分な。文化系だったような。
Oh my gosh, so he actually is like, I know this girl. I'm glad someone actually recognized her. I know it's probably a big school. You can't expect to know every student, but still. Itoi was moving at a quick pace. His expression was serious, but he was having trouble hiding his excitement.
そんなことあるのか？
んだよ、マジだって。
They were following Itoi down the hallway quickly. After seeing the video of the room at the Love Hotel, he'd said,
こいつ、知ってるぞ。
He'd said that he knew the girl who'd been in the room with us. That couldn't be true. Serika and I had insisted he was mistaken, but Itoi wouldn't listen. At this point, in these types of games, it's almost more of a surprise when they don't all happen to just go to the same school.
部会で見かけた気がするんだよ。
Even if he was right, the club leaders meeting was where all the leaders of the school clubs and teams got together. If she was there, did that mean she was a leader in some club? I asked Itoi, but he just smirked a little.
わかんねえぞ。うちみたいに部長が大勢の人の前で喋るのが苦手で、副部長が部会の議長だから、ただの部員である俺が出ているところもあるんだからな。
苦手じゃない。ただ、なんていうか。
I didn't like it. It made me nervous. Being in front of all those people, I mean. And everybody knows those meetings never actually lead to anything productive. You made a movie out of one of them, no one would go see it.
なんていうか、なんだ。
いいだろ、別に。というか、どこに行くつもりなんだよ。
ここだ。
Itoi suddenly stopped. It was the student council room on the 6th floor of the annex building.
なんで？
部活紹介とかの書類が写真付きで置いてあるんだよ。校内中探すよりいいだろ。
But wait a second. I pulled Itoi away from the door.
バカ！もしクルスがいたらどうするんだよ。
Itoi gave a little moan.
それはお前がなんとかごまかせよ。
だから、それができるくらいだったら最初から。
入りまーす。
Onoe ignored us completely and walked right into the room. Damn, now what? We just have to pray that she's not here. Oh, and she's there. Our eyes met, and I suddenly forgot how to breathe. Why? It was the girl. Alright, let's do a positive one this time. What was she doing here?
タクル？あなたたちもどうしたの全員で。
あ、いや。
The woman, no, the girl, stared at us suspiciously. And then, for the first time, she realized I couldn't take my eyes off of her.
何ほうけてるのあなたたち。
あ？
The words wouldn't come out. What do I say? Why is she here? Why is she acting so normal?
はじめまして。私、クルスノノの妹です。
The girl suddenly smiled and bowed.
妹？
嘘だ。クルスに妹がいるなんて話、聞いたことが。
渋谷地震の時に生き別れになっていたの。私自身、妹はもう死んじゃったんだって諦めていたんだけど。
This is obviously not the truth, right? What a coincidence if that were the case.
まさか、こうして再会できるなんて。本当に奇跡ってあるのね。
There were tears in Karusu's eyes. Then the girl really was her little sister? I was still having trouble believing it as the girl walked right up to me.
あなたが宮代タクルさんですか？
うん、そうだけど。
How does she know my name?
じゃあ、私にとってはお兄ちゃんですね。
No, whenever these have like, oh, you're my big brother, but not actually my big brother, it's gonna get weird up in this joint.
なんだと？
そうなの？
Yep.
だってタクルさんはお姉ちゃんにとって弟同然なんでしょ？
What the hell? That doesn't make any sense at all. I looked to Kurusu for help.
タクル、仲良くしてあげて。よろしくお願いします、お兄ちゃん。
I'm just getting flashbacks to Takumi's little sister, and when he no. At least this time it's not actually his biological little sister. And all of a sudden I had a little sister. Things around here were about to get a lot more complicated. And then we just see the end. And then the game is over. Then it just becomes a slice of life harem anime. Anyway. Is it actually gonna like roll credits? That would have been fucking hilarious. No way. Not a chance in hell. There was no way this girl was Kurusu's little sister. Not that I had any idea what she was doing here.
のんちゃん、知り合いなの？
Sirica motioned toward the girl.
ええ、後輩。2年生で文芸部部長の有村ひなえさん。
どうもです。
Whenever those girls have those little fang teeth, they're gonna be trouble. The girl bowed to us.
クルス先輩のお友達ですか？
ええ。そっちが新聞部部員で3年の伊藤真二くん。同じく部員で2年の尾上セリカ。で、それが部長で3年の宮代拓。身の程を知らない私の愚弟。
Kurusu's eyes narrowed as she glared at me.
弟さんですか？でも名字が。
養護施設のね。
へえ、血がつながってない兄弟。なんかいやらしいですね。
Oh, we know what type of books this girl reads. She's in the literature club. I'm like, I love how she goes to the exact mindset that I do.
小説とかと一緒にしないでちょうだい。
But still, doesn't it seem kind of naughty? She asked with a wink. This girl's gonna be fun. She's got the little fangs. She's got the little, like, yeah, the little canines. She's got a dirty mind. What? She seemed like she was gonna be more of a stoic, serious character. Why? What are you doing here? I wiped my sweaty hands on my pants and tried to ignore my pounding heart.
何してるんですか？いや、
Damn it. Get the words out.
タクル？
Serica seemed to understand what I was trying to say and finished my sentence for me.
有村さんは何しにここに来たんですか？え？クルス先輩に文化祭のことで話があったんだよ。てか同学年なんだから敬語いらないよ。うん。まあいっか。じゃあ私はこれで。クルス先輩、すいませんでした。
Kurusu waved a hand and told her not to worry.
事情があるなら仕方ないでしょう。文芸部は文化祭に参加できないと話は通しておくから。でも、どうしても事情は言えないのね。
痛いけな乙女の秘密ということで、何卒。
了解。でも来年はフォローできないからね。
はい、ありがとうございました。
The girl put her bag on her shoulder and bowed to us, then went to leave. Wait, I still haven't asked you about the things I need to. Her name, it was...
有村さん？
My voice was loud enough that it made her jump a bit.
びっくりした。元気ですね。
ごめんなさい。
いえ、別にいいんですけど。何です？
大声すいませんでした。いや、じゃなくて、ですね。
My face was turning red from nervousness. Damn, this is always what happens when I talk to someone for the first time. What should I ask? Alright, let's go negative this time. Oh god, this is gonna sound really bad. It's like when we saw each other at the Love Hotel cruise is gonna be like, what?
ホテル？
何してたんですか？あのホテルで。
A moment. It felt like her body moved for just a moment.
有村さん？
Is she gonna be like, you shouldn't have said anything, now I have to kill you? I could see Kurusu frown in the corner of my eye. Aramura was still looking at me. Her expression hadn't changed, but for some reason it felt like she was looking me over. Aramura-san sighed, annoyed.
はいはい。白状しますよ。
Confess? No way. To murder?
親父狩りしてました。
え？
わかります？親父狩り。
私が街を歩いてるおっさんに1回1万円って言って声かけるんです。で、ホテル行ったら先にシャワー浴びてよって頼むわけっすよ。そしたらその間に仲間を部屋に誘導する。
Her friends?
あとはすっぱだかのおっさんを縛って写メで取ってから財布に入ってるお金を全部抜き取って終了。向こうは後ろめたいことしてるわけだから警察にも言えずに泣き寝入り。完全犯罪の成立です。
In other words, she had very scary friends.
でもよりによってこないだのおっさんは抵抗してきたんですよ。ムカついたんで全員でリンチしてぶっ殺しちゃいました。
No one said a word.
ちなみに皆さんの顔と名前全部覚えちゃいましたんで、夜道を歩くときは気をつけてくださいね。私の仲間がご挨拶に行くかも。
Damn, okay. It certainly was a possibility, wasn't it? I couldn't think of any other good reason for her to be in that hotel. An awkward silence ensued as we waited for her to answer.
あなただったんですか？部屋に入ったっていううちの生徒は。
So wow, I thought she was gonna like be more like, hey, let's talk about this later. She's just coming straight out with it. Okay. The tone of her voice was perfectly normal. There was no surprise or anger, just a flat, level tone. But somehow that struck me as far more frightening. Even so, I nodded.
言葉に出してもらってもいいですか？部屋に入ったのはあなたですか？
Oh, what?
そうだよ。
そうですか。
I couldn't tell if she cared or not.
それでホテルで何を？
部屋のドアが勝手に開いて、それで入れたそうですね。それは本当ですか？
The door? The door opened on its own? She knew about that. I nodded.
言葉に出してもらってもいいですか？
Huh?
本当だよ。勝手に内側から。
The way that she's saying, like, it almost feels like she's recording us. Like she's, I feel like this is the girl. I feel like this is the girl that works with Momose. The one who's like, you better be careful about her. She seems like she's a little bit of a journalist herself or something, because I don't know, the way she keeps saying, can you say this out loud instead of nodding? It sounds like she's recording us because she needs to get like actual audio confirmation because she doesn't have like video recording.
そうですか。
Once again, she seemed to be looking me over. What was going on here?
有村さん？何かあなた。じゃあ、失礼します。
Arimura ignored Cruz's question and went to leave.
ちょっとですから何を？
ああ、敬語いらないですよ。それに呼び捨てでいいです。後輩じゃないですか。それから。
Oh.
あなた、
Oh.
殺されますよ。宮代拓先輩。
Okay. Why are all the girls around here so scary? Those were her last words before she left the room. She didn't seem at all surprised I'd questioned her, but I froze solid. Well, the plot thickens. I thought it was going to be a little while until they came across the girl at the crime scene, and nope, she's just... Surprise, surprise, she is also a student at the school. I think we all could have seen that coming. And she's an interesting character from what I've seen so far. She kind of jumps back and forth between being kind of light and a little perverted, and then just immediately dark and be like, you're gonna die now. Like, what does that mean? Is she just messing around with him? Or is she serious? And then also the whole thing that the detective, when he was talking to her, he said the thing that Momose said to mention, what was it? It was like, do you have it or you don't have it? Is it something that's related to the Chaos Child syndrome? Do they have powers like the Gigalomaniacs? What's going on here? And then, of course, as we can see in the, our intro here, the sumo stickers, these are going to be a big connection. So it seems like whenever a sumo sticker shows up, that could be a sign that that's where the next murder is going to happen. Now the question is, will the next murder happen in the next episode? Given the way that it's just been kind of speeding along, I wouldn't be surprised. And I'm anxiously awaiting to see when, well, we know when, October 10th. Where, how is it going to happen? And will it be related at all to the cases? It's interesting that there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to the murders this time. And the only thing that seems to match up is the dates. There doesn't seem to be any connection to how the murders happened, the victims themselves, unless there's something that we're missing. I don't know, but it's got me curious. But we're going to go ahead and end the episode here. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned next time for part 4 of Chaos Child. Special shoutouts to my top tier patrons: Revealing Storm, Linz VA, Kenju Storm, Icognito, Sean, Waz RD1, and iZuzu.